Desmond owned many businesses. Some of them produced new, exotic innovations in the life-ruining industry, and others relied on the tried-and-true methods. But apart from that, they shared most of their values. In almost every single one of them, he occupied the same position: chief officer, which meant that he was more important than all the other chief officers. He also took pride in being the primary shareholder wherever possible. Any time he bought into a business, his first priority was establishing a controlling interest so that he could really start setting up shop. His most mundane business was also his smallest, a cute little property holding company based square in the heart of Deston, whose only purpose was to rent out the 6 luxury apartments in Desmond's high-rise. Happy Life Holdings. For most purposes, it was the same as Desmond simply being a standalone landlord, but he liked the name, and so a company it was. Happy Life's mission statement was to seek out the gems among the less fortunate and to polish them to their proper standing. This meant finding poor people on the street and offering them these lavish spots at shoestring prices. They were allowed, for a time, to live as they pleased, get used to the personal hot tub, the heated mattresses, the wall-to-wall television, the complimentary weekly meal by the in-house chef, etc. Rent would increase by 150 rallets every month until they could no longer pay. Anytime a tenant couldn't pay, Happy Life evicted them immediately, although it was branded as graduation. Ostensibly, the theory was that by showing poor people what civilized life was like, they would straighten themselves out, start making money, and generally lose whatever qualities Desmond thought made them icky. More likely, Desmond just liked to crush people between slowly advancing walls. Tenants always seemed to graduate sadder and more anxious than they went in, and didn't generally last very long in their old lives before something terrible happened. Despite calling itself a philanthropic entity, Happy Life made it a point not to check up on its alumni once they were out of the building. Mr. Tibbets, aged somewhere between 90 years and 1 billion, was due for graduation after 2 months. He'd arrived at the end of his retirement money, and without any relatives to contact and bill for continued services, his retirement home had discharged him. Desmond saw him nodding halfway to sleep, or maybe death, on a bench and thought he looked cute, and so offered him a place with Happy Life. Mr. Tibbets was in the sitting room, praying for a heart attack or a seizure of some kind, when he heard a prim knock at the door. It took him considerable effort to even stand up from the sofa, let alone walk to the door, but he did it anyway. He'd almost reached the doorknob when Desmond opened the door, narrowly avoiding Mr. Tibbets' face.
"Ah, Mr. Tibbets, I have some excellent news for you," Desmond said, waving his hands like a backup dancer in a C-list jazz act. "You're giving me an extension on my rent? I've been playing the roulette like crazy, but I'm not quite at 150 yet. Damn cheats!"
Desmond's face screwed up like he'd just been asked to eat a piece of mini bread.
"Roulette, Tibbets? That's only something you do if you have money, and even then only as a social grace. Winning money from it would be just crass. But, rough manners aside, I'm actually here to let you know that you've graduated."
Desmond did the hand wave again, but it was very short this time and done as an obligation more than anything else.
"Graduated?"
This may as well have been the first time Mr. Tibbets had ever heard the word.
"What's that supposed to mean?"
"My friend, it means you've gained all you can from this place. All that's left for you now is to go out into the world, apply everything you've learned, and make us here at Happy Life proud."
"Now, hold on just a sec,"
Mr. Tibbets sputtered. It was dangerous for him to sputter, because something might fall off from the exertion.
"Yeah, I'm real close to 150. You come back in an hour, and I'll have the money all nice and ready."
Desmond gave an unconvincing facsimile of a sympathetic smile.
"My dear man, rent is 300 this month, not 150. I'm sure we discussed this. I'd hate to accept dirty roulette money anyway.
You have until midnight to pack up and vacate the premises."
"Oh, no, you don't!"
Mr. Tibbets shouted. Even in calmer times, it was easy to get him shouting. This was one of the reasons why he was alone, but he was surely justified here.
You promised me $150 a month. That's what I paid last month, and it was all fine and dandy, if you remember.
And you thought that would last? Mr. Tibbets, Happy Life is a business, and it operates at a loss out of the generosity of my heart. If you'd read your contract more carefully, you would know that rent increases by $150 a month. And now, given your...
Desmond sucked air through his teeth.
habits, I don't think you make a suitable tenant anyway. Do you have any non-eviction related questions?
Do you have a soul?
Yes, and it's made of solid gold. Desmond looked Mr. Tibbets up and down and then continued, as opposed to lint and dandruff. Desmond was actually incorrect on this. A clever enough psychologist could distill a person's soul down to a series of numbers, albeit a long, impossibly complicated one, and a clever enough chemist could use those same numbers to define the properties of a material. It just so happened that if someone performed this operation on Desmond's soul, they would get about 1 marg of antimatter, compressed tightly enough to form a singularity. Mr. Tibbets' soul matched up to 4 margs of sodium, and Annalise's soul was a riddle of isopropyl alcohol. Mr. Tibbets didn't have the time to say any of this before Desmond shut the door and disappeared down the hall. Of course, even if he did have the time, he wouldn't have been able to correct Desmond. He believed souls were immaterial and impossible to define, although not in so many words. Or maybe in more words, but less clear ones. But these ruminations were the last thing on Mr. Tibbets' mind as he turned to face the finer life that was no longer his.